Friends, today we are going to hear a real-life-based story that will send shivers down your spine. You will think 1,000 times before oppressing anyone because this is the story of such a woman, after whose death not a single person came forward to bathe, shroud, or bury her. No one was even willing to touch her dead body. So, in the end, having no other choice, her own daughter had to carry her mother's body. She had to give her mother the funeral bath, all by herself, and she alone lifted the bier on her head and took it to the graveyard. Because every person in the village hated that deceased woman. But after she was buried, such an astonishing incident took place that left all the villagers disturbed and terrified. But what was the reason that made everyone hate her so much? What was the reason her daughter had to give her the funeral bath alone and carry the bier on her head to the graveyard? And what happened right after she was buried? If these questions have also risen in your mind, then to know the answers, make sure to watch this video till the end. This is not just a video, but a story that can change your life. It is a tragic and terrifying reality. This story holds a deep lesson. In one corner of Yemen, there was a small dust-covered village. In that village, at one end, lived Wahib, his harsh-tongued mother Nazia, and his ill-tempered sister Liliana. Wahib was a unique young man among all the villagers. A calm and pure smile always played on his lips, and his heart was filled with the fear of Allah. But his mother and sister's hearts were the exact opposite. There was a sharpness, like thorns in Nazia's words, which could wound a person's heart in an instant. No one in the village wanted to associate with them if it could be avoided. Their behavior with everyone was rude and insulting. The villagers would often come to Wahib complaining about Nazia's behavior. They would say, "Wahib, your mother misbehaves with us terribly." Please tell her something. Wahib would listen quietly, his heart heavy with sorrow. He felt ashamed and hurt by his mother's behavior, but thinking of Allah's command, he stayed silent. Serving his mother and staying humble before her was his duty. So, raising his voice was out of the question. He never even protested against her words. Sometimes, in a soft tone, he would try to make her understand, "Mother, what harm is there in speaking kindly to people?" Nazia would scold him back, saying, "All the villagers are liars. They cannot stand to see me well. That's why they spread such talk." Wahib knew the real truth, but he could never say anything to his mother's face. Time passed, and Wahib reached the age of marriage. One day, his mother called him and said, "I have found a girl for you. I will get you married." Wahib's face darkened with disappointment. With a tone full of sadness, he said softly, "Mother, who would give us their daughter? Everyone in the village avoids us. No father would send his daughter into a house where there is no peace." His sister Liliana had also reached the age of marriage, but due to her bad temper, no proposal ever came. Finally, they found an orphan girl living at the far end of the village. Her name was Ikra. She had grown up under her uncle's care after losing her parents. She was unmatched in beauty and virtue, and her nature was as calm and pure as morning dew. Wahib married her. On their wedding night, Wahib, with a mix of hesitation and guilt, held Ikra's hand and said, "Ikra, I need to tell you something. My mother and sister, they have rather harsh tempers. I know their words will hurt you, but I cannot speak against my mother. For the sake of Allah, please try to adjust with them. have a little patience for me." In Ikra's eyes was tenderness, and on her face, a gentle smile. She clasped Wahib's hand tighter and said, "Don't worry. From now on, she's not only your mother, but mine too, and your sister is like my own sister. I will do my best to win their hearts." Wahib was so moved by his wife's words that he felt Allah had sent her as a reward for all his suffering. But happiness did not last long. Within 3 months of the marriage, Nazia and Liliana's true nature came out. They mistook Ikra's calmness for weakness. Every day, they subjected her to cruel mental torture, constant taunts, scolding for no reason, and even denying her proper meals. Ikra endured it all silently, only for the sake of her husband. Wahib saw everything, his heart twisted in pain, but before his mother, he was helpless. Then, a ray of hope appeared in their lives. 5 months after the marriage, Ikra became pregnant. Wahib's happiness knew no bounds. He felt this child might remove all the darkness from their family. Ikra, too, forgot all her pain and began to dream anew. But this good news ignited a fire of jealousy in Nazia and Liliana's hearts. They could not tolerate that Wahib and Ikra were happy. A sinister plot began to take shape in their minds. One day, Liliana whispered to her mother, "Mother, this child must not be born." Nazia's evil eyes gleamed in agreement. As days passed, their cruelty only grew. The unborn child in Ikra's womb had become their enemy. They wanted by any means for her pregnancy to end. When Wahib was home, they behaved calmly, but the moment he left for work, the torture began. Forget care or proper food. They deliberately made her do heavy chores. One morning, after Wahib left for the city, Nazia and Liliana made a terrible plan. They poured oil all over the kitchen floor so that Ikra would slip and fall the moment she entered. Their intention was clear: to harm Ikra badly and destroy her unborn child. A little later, as Ikra entered the kitchen, the dreadful incident occurred. Her foot hit the oil, and she couldn't balance herself. She fell hard to the ground. A sharp pain struck her abdomen. A cry of agony escaped her lips. But Nazia and Liliana had no trace of humanity left. They stood at a distance, watching her writhe in pain, their faces twisted in a demonic smile. By the time Ikra was taken to the hospital, it was already too late. The doctor informed them that her unborn baby could not be saved. This news was like the sky collapsing over Wahib's head. But for Ikra, the pain was even deeper. All the torture she had endured so far had been for the sake of this child. Now, when that last light of hope was gone, her patience shattered completely. After returning from the hospital, Ikra could no longer remain silent. Her heart was bursting with grief. That night, she stood on her prayer mat, crying uncontrollably. Every breath was filled with pain and sorrow. Finally, she raised her hands and prayed to Allah, "O my Lord, I am an orphan, a helpless woman. I have never complained to you about my mother-in-law or sister-in-law's cruelty. I endured all their oppression silently. But today they have murdered my innocent unborn child. O Allah, I can no longer bear this pain. I am oppressed, and you accept the prayers of the oppressed. I leave their punishment in your hands. Give them such a harsh punishment that it becomes a lesson for everyone." Even after hearing this heartbreaking prayer, neither Liliana nor Nazia felt any fear. They looked at each other and laughed. After this incident, Wahib completely broke down. a deep hatred for his mother and sister took root in his heart. He decided he would no longer live in that house. He said to Ikra, "I cannot stay under the same roof with these tyrants anymore." Saying this, he left for the city, promising to take full responsibility for Ikra's living expenses. After Wahib's departure, Nazia and Liliana's cruelty intensified even more. But Allah's justice did not take long. Exactly 1 month after Ikra's heartfelt prayer, one morning, Nazia woke up to find her body completely paralyzed. She could not move at all. Her whole body had become numb. As for Liliana, she had been married with much celebration, but due to her bad temper, her in-laws could not tolerate her. Within just 2.5 months of marriage, she was divorced. Completely humiliated, she returned to her brother's house. Now, there were 3 people in the house: the paralyzed Nazia, the divorced Liliana, and the oppressed Ikra. Nazia lay on the bed, shedding silent tears. Liliana spent her days cursing her own fate. Both of them now deeply realized that this was the result of that orphaned and oppressed girl's heart-shaking prayer. Regret was burning them from within. One day, Liliana cried and begged Ikra for forgiveness on behalf of her mother. But for Ikra, who had lost her own child, was it really possible to forgive so easily? The frozen pain and sorrow in her heart could not melt that quickly. Without giving any reply, she quietly left the room. Exactly 2 days after this incident, one early morning, Nazia died lying on her bed. There was a shadow of fear and regret on her face and in her eyes. The news of Nazia's death was sent to Wahib. But the pain of losing his unborn child and the resentment stored in his heart for his mother had turned him into stone. He clearly replied, "It's not possible for me to come. You people take care of her burial." Hearing such a response from her brother broke Liliana's heart. What would she do now, all alone? Weeping, she went to the villagers to inform them of her mother's death and to ask for help with the burial. But who would accompany on the final journey of a woman whose entire life had been spent hurting others? The villagers plainly said, "Your mother caused us great suffering. We can't do anything for her." No one even agreed to give her mother the funeral bath. Finally, Liliana decided to wash her mother's body alone. But the moment she looked at her mother's face, her soul trembled. Nazia's face had turned pitch black and pale from fear and pain. A terrible stench was coming from her body that no perfume or fragrance could cover. Liliana understood that this was Allah's wrath. A severe punishment from the Almighty had descended upon her mother. Somehow, after giving the bath, when the bier was brought outside, even the few people who had come to watch held their cloths to their noses and left after seeing the blackened face and smelling the foul odor. Everyone began whispering, "This is the consequence of the cruelty she inflicted on her daughter-in-law." Liliana felt as if the ground beneath her feet was disappearing. With great difficulty, she dragged her mother's bier toward the graveyard all by herself. After much pleading and begging, the imam agreed to lead the funeral prayer. After the burial, when Liliana returned home, her heart was burning in the fire of remorse. She felt as if her fate would soon be the same as her mother's. She went to her mother's grave every day, but even after 3 days, she saw that a terrible stench was still coming from the grave, and countless snakes and scorpions were crawling all over it. Seeing this horrifying scene, Liliana's heart nearly stopped. Without wasting another moment, she ran back home and fell at Ikra's feet. Crying uncontrollably, she said, "Ikra, my sister, please forgive me. We did you great wrong. For the sake of Allah, forgive us. Look what a dreadful state my mother's grave is in. If you don't take back your curse, Allah will never spare us." Seeing Liliana's desperate plea and her tears, even Ikra's stone-like heart melted. Compassion arose in her. She went with Liliana to the graveyard and saw that terrifying sight with her own eyes. The fire of revenge in her soft heart was extinguished, replaced by pity. She once again raised her hands in prayer before Allah and wept, saying, "O Allah, you have accepted my prayer, and I am grateful to you, but I can no longer bear to see my mother-in-law and sister-in-law in such a pitiful state. I take back my curse. I forgive both of them from the bottom of my heart. O my great Lord, please forgive them as well. Remove the punishment from their graves." As soon as Ikra's prayer ended, a miraculous event occurred. All the snakes and scorpions on the grave vanished in the blink of an eye. The terrible stench coming from the grave disappeared instantly, replaced by a heavenly fragrance spreading all around. Liliana tried again to fall at Ikra's feet in gratitude, but Ikra embraced her instead and said, "What's done is done. From now on, you will live as my little sister." 2 days later, Wahib returned home. Ikra told him everything that had happened. Hearing about the dreadful state of his mother's grave, all anger, resentment, and sorrow melted away from Wahib's heart. He forgave his mother completely and visited her grave to offer prayers. Liliana, too, folded her hands before her brother and begged for forgiveness. Wahib forgave her as well and pulled her into a loving embrace. From then on, a new chapter began in their lives. Liliana changed completely. She became calm, humble, and a true woman of faith. Ikra loved her like her own younger sister. Wahib spent his days in peace and happiness with his wife and sister in that very house. Just 2 months later, good news came to Wahib's home. Ikra was pregnant again. And Liliana had changed so much that Ikra was deeply pleased with her. Wahib was also very happy to see such transformation in his sister. Liliana had become truly pious. Seeing this change, Ikra raised her hands once more before the Almighty, but this time not to curse, rather to pray. She prayed, "O my great Lord, you have granted me honor and love. Once, in great pain, I had raised my hands before you with a curse, but you have changed that person so completely that today my eyes and my heart are filled with peace. I am pleased with her, so you also be pleased with her. I have no complaint against her. I have forgiven her from my heart, so you forgive her too. Bring endless happiness and peace into her life. Make her life like a garden of flowers." Within only a week of this prayer, Liliana's marriage was arranged with a noble and good family. Liliana went to her husband's home, and when the time came, Ikra gave birth to a beautiful, flower-like baby girl, bringing light into Wahib's house. Just as the prayer of an oppressed woman once brought a family to the brink of destruction, her forgiveness once again turned that same family into a garden of paradise. Friends, this was not just a story. It was a profound lesson of life. Today's heart-touching event clearly showed us that the Almighty Allah never lets the prayer of the oppressed go unanswered. No matter how powerful the oppressor may seem, in the end, Allah Himself establishes justice. We also learned that oppressing an orphan is among the gravest sins in the eyes of Allah. Those who act cruelly and unjustly toward others should never think they will escape, for no one can ever evade the hand of Allah's justice. Moreover, this story reminds us that gentle speech, humility, and kind behavior are the true keys to gaining respect in society. Those who lack courtesy and compassion ultimately lose their dignity in the eyes of people. So come, let us all take the lessons of this story to heart. Stand beside the oppressed, stay away from injustice, and treat everyone with love and respect. May Allah grant us all the understanding and the strength to put these teachings into practice. Ameen. Dear listeners, if you liked this video, please don't forget to give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do subscribe now. And if you have already subscribed, then from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you immensely. Those who watched the video till the end, please comment "done" or "finished" and let us know from where you watched this video. And to receive our new videos regularly, be sure to turn on the bell icon to all.